book dragons, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Joana and I love to talk about books on this channel, specifically fantasy books. Today I'm here with another installment of if you liked this YA fantasy, read this adult fantasy. These videos are meant for people who are trying to branch into the adult genre. They've read some YA books and they've really liked them, and then they are like, okay, I know I like these tropes, I know I like these kinds of books. What could I read that would transition me into the adult fantasy genre if I like this? And it can also be for people who are adults, have read adult books but are trying to read more YA. This could be a good recommendation. It can be a recommendation if you're looking for someone in your entourage, like a child, like a young teen or something like that, and you want to buy them books and you know, hey, I like this one. Is there anything that could resemble this for younger audiences? Something like that. I already have one installment here on the channel, which I filmed in the summer, which I will leave linked up here so you can check out a first batch of recommendations. And today I have another set of recommendations. Some of these are really like, you can immediately tell why, and some are just like a feeling or similar ideas and tropes and themes behind it. So without further rambling, let's go. The reason I decided to do another round of recommendations is because I recently read a book that I loved so much, and I think that there is a series, a YA series, that is very beloved and that readers of that series will love this one. And so I decided I need to do another round of recommendations of YA versus like read this if you like this, because this is just perfect. And that would be, I think that if you like The Diviners by Libba Bray, specifically from book 2 onward, I think you would love The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. In The Diviners we have multiple characters in 1920s New York, and it is the world of the flappers and of everything exciting. And basically the main starting point of the book is that our main character Evie doesn't live in New York, but she gets always in a lot of trouble where she lives, and her parents decide to send her to New York to spend time with her uncle. Really weird decision to send a girl who's always getting in trouble for being a party girl to 1920s New York, but that's what her parents do. And Evie has a little secret that is that when she touches an object, she can read the past of the object and like people who've touched it and stuff like that. And so when she arrives in New York, she starts realizing that, hey, maybe she's not the only one with specific powers. And then there's like a supernatural killer on the loose, and maybe her powers can help to solve the case. But starting in book 2, we have another one of those people that we meet them in early on, but we have the whole thing of like the dream world and people who can do stuff in their dreams. And that atmosphere that we get in those books with the dream world and the beauty of the book, how lush it feels, I think that is why people would love The Mask of Mirrors. In this story we follow our main character Ren, and she is a con artist, and she has picked a family in the exciting city of Nadezhra, which is basically a Venetian fantasy city, and she decides to pick a family in Nadezhra to con herself into this family as a long lost relative, and so that she can join this family, become a part of the official family roster, and so that she can con them out of their riches. Little does Ren know that the family she picked is on the verge of bankruptcy and don't really have a lot of money to be stolen. And the reason I think that if you liked The Diviners you would love this is because this has like such a lush setting, but also a dream world sort of magic, also with how do I say this without spoiling any of it? If you've read the Diviner series and you know the King of Crows, I think that's what it's called, we have kind of something similar in this. And it's so like, I just kept on thinking, like, for people who love that series, you should read this. It's so beautiful, it's so lush, it has a lot of political intrigue, it has a lot of balls and Venetian aesthetic. Like if you like ballroom stuff, you will love this. There's also a magic system based on tarot cards, and it's just so well done. I love this book so much. It is a new all-time favorite, and I really do think that if you liked the glittering, dreamy, lush world of The Diviners, that you would love this series. This one has 2 books out at the moment, and the third one is coming out I think next year. Next up is a recommendation that I feel like other people have made, but I thought, hey, why not? Because I know this is a very beloved series that I don't even know if it's 100% YA, but it gets shelved in the YA genre a lot. And that is, if you like The Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, I think you would like The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. In The Darker Shade of Magic we have our main character Kel, and he is a person who can kind of world hop. He can go from one London to another London to another London, because in this world we have 4 Londons: Black London, Grey London, White London, and Red London, all with differing access to magic. And he is one of those rare people that can go from one London to the next. And he is also, though, a kind of little bit of a smuggler, and one time he brings something from one London to another that he shouldn't have brought, and chaos starts ensuing. We also meet Lila Bard, and she is someone who is kind of down on her luck in life, and then she meets Kel and she starts getting whisked into this whole world of Londons and politics and all that stuff. So if you liked this book, I think the odds are very high that you will like The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. In this one we follow our main character Kelsier, and he meets Vin, who is our other main character of the story, and she's also down on her luck, and she is a street urchin in the city of Luthadel. And as Kelsier discovers that Vin has maybe access to the magic of this world, he takes her into his crew and he trains her into everything that is like with the magic, and also heist in this book. So I think that if you like this, the heisty, the coming together of 2 different sort of people, that you will like this one for that same reason. So here we have like heist and magic systems, and really, really cool, like my favorite book of all time. And this one, I think if you like this one, you would like this one, because here we don't have so much of a heist, but you do have the aspect of like there's imminent danger with everything that Kel has smuggled and the things that he shouldn't have smuggled, causing trouble. And here we have the heist to overthrow an evil Lord Ruler. So if you like this, I think you would like this. I kind of really didn't mean to do this, but oh well. I think that if you liked The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, which is an older YA fantasy, that you would like Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I really didn't mean to have 2 Brandon Sanderson books in this video, but here we go. In The Kiss of Deception, we follow our main character Leah, who is a princess. She's betrothed to this man that she doesn't really want to marry, and on the eve of her wedding she's like, no, I'm gonna get out of here, I don't want to marry this guy. So she runs away. She's the runaway princess, and she kind of goes to this town and starts living a little bit like an incognito life with a friend there, and no one knows who she is, that she's the lost princess of this realm. And then one day she realizes that there's 2 men who are sent after her, but she doesn't know they're sent after her because they just appear in this town where she is. But these 2 men are sent after her. One is an assassin sent to kill her, and one is the prince that she was supposed to marry, who comes to see who this girl is that kind of got away from him. And for a long time in this book, you don't know who's the prince and who is the assassin, you as a reader, and she definitely doesn't know. And I think that was really fun. This is one of those YA series that I haven't read since it came out a long time ago, but I loved this one back then, and I still, it sits strongly in my feelings because of how much I loved it and how much I loved the direction that the 2nd and the 3rd book go in. I found that it was very fascinating, gets a lot more political if I recall correctly. So I think that if you like this, you would like Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. In Warbreaker, we also follow 2 sisters, mainly Vivenna and Ciri. And Vivenna has been trained her whole life to become the bride of this god king, because in one of the main cities of their world, there's these people called the Returned. So you have people who died and came back somewhat as gods, and then we have the God King, who is the person that she's supposed to marry, who kind of rules over them there. And as the time approaches for her to go and get married to this guy, her father realizes that he does not want to send his beloved Vivenna to marry this man. She's the favorite daughter, and he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna send Ciri instead. And Ciri has been the princess that has lived a carefree life. She's done whatever she wanted because there was no responsibility on her shoulders, since Vivenna was to take the whole thing of the responsibility of marrying this god king. And when Ciri gets sent there, she's clearly not prepared, and she doesn't know anything of what's going on. When Vivenna, though, then sees that Ciri got sent, she goes after Ciri to save her sister, because she's like, my sister's definitely not prepared for this. She's a little bit of like a carefree person, and this is going to be big trouble, so I need to go rescue my sister. And the premise of these 2 books are not the same, clearly, but I think that if you like this, you could like this, because we do follow 2 princesses who are very headstrong, who have very much their own thoughts on what they want to do in life and how they want to accomplish things, and take matters into their own hands. They may have destinies that are kind of like forced upon them by their fathers, but they decide ultimately what they want to do with them. Be it Vivenna and Ciri here, or Leah here, all these women, they pick what they want to do, and they don't let other people rule for them or tell them what to do with their lives. And I also think that if you like seeing the aspect here of Leah interacting with these characters, you would also probably like this, because they interact with all different people, and the politics are completely different, the world is completely different, the magic is, everything is different, but I feel like if you like this, there's a chance you would like the themes explored in Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. My next recommendation is if you liked The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi, I think you would really enjoy Foundry by Robert Jackson Bennett. In The Gilded Wolves, we follow a cast of characters, but mainly our main character, Séverin. This is set in 1889 in Paris, and Séverin is a treasure hunter and a wealthy hotelier. And he gets called by this Order of Babel and told, hey, you want your inheritance, but then you have to go steal a certain thing for us or do a certain mission for us. To succeed in his missions, he gets a band of unlikely allies together to succeed and to complete what he needs to do so that he can get his inheritance. This one is also very beautiful and pretty, and I think that if you liked this, you could also like The Mask of Mirrors and The Final Empire because of the ball and the glittering setting. So I think that that is also a good recommendation. But in this one, I read it. I didn't absolutely love this one. But now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe I should just reread it and finish out the series, because this was a ton of fun. You have the heist aspect. You have the aspect of this band of unlikely people coming together to accomplish a mission and to kind of go on heist and solve puzzles and solve clues to be able to get what they want. And I think that if you like this but are looking for an adult version of this, Foundry is a good pick for you. Because in this one we have our main character Santia, and she is a thief, and a very, very good one at that. And this one is also inspired by, like, I think it's also Venice or an Italian city, like it's kind of Italian inspired, the setting. As a thief, Santia is sent to steal an artifact that has a ton of power, and she doesn't know this. She doesn't know what she's going to go steal. She's just on a mission to go steal something for someone, and she ends up in a lot of trouble because of what she does. And also in this one, she has to come together with a bunch of unlikely people to form an alliance to get themselves out of the trouble that they got into. The magic system in this one is absolutely fascinating and one of the strong points of the series. I mean, this book, I love the characters, I love the setting, I love the plot. Like the last half of this book, I remember flying through it, but the magic system in this one is super, super, super interesting. It is based on scribing. And so basically it's almost like coding. Like if you had a cart and you were going into the cart's system and you said, hey, you can now do this and this, and then if the card thinks that certain, I'm really bad at describing this magic system, but it is so fascinating and so interesting to see, and also how you can then outmaneuver certain things by being clever. And I think that, yeah, the magic system in this one is phenomenal. The characters I really loved. I haven't read this one in a long time because there was for a long time no news about the third and final book, but that one is coming out this summer, so I'm going to be sure to be rereading this one to read the second one and then the third one. Also with the setting, this one is Paris, this one is Italy. I think that you have a little bit of a different setting than your typical castles and just that kind of stuff, you know, it's like a little bit more modern. And then here you also have a lot of political intrigue, which I absolutely love and devour in books. And here you have it on a more lower scale, but you do have some political intrigue as well. So I think that if you did like The Gilded Wolves, there's a good chance that you would love Foundry. And finally, a recommendation that I think is a little bit, I don't know, it fits, but it's like why would you recommend this? Because readers of the one would probably anyway pick up the other one, but it's not certain, so that's why I wanted to recommend it. My final recommendation is if you like City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, I think you would like House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Now this is what I meant. A lot of people like Cassandra Clare, Sarah J. Maas. Really, Joana? Really? Yes. City of Bones, I mean, everyone knows this. Clary Frey sees things that nobody else sees. She sees vampires, and she sees people that are hunting these vampires and with weird markings on their bodies, and her friend that she's hanging out with is like, I don't see any of what you're seeing. You must be going crazy. But no, she isn't going crazy. She is a shadow hunter, and shadow hunters hunt demons to rid them of this world. She meets other people, other shadow hunters. This series is huge. The series has so many books out. It has spin-off series and series set in the same world with other characters. I mean, a lot of people know Cassandra Clare and the series, but I think the reason I thought this is because as much as people have read this, I feel like there's a lot of people now who wouldn't pick this up anymore, because this is extremely, what is this, 2011 or whatever, whenever this came out, 2007 YA, and you can tell there's like tropes in here that, yeah. But the thing that made me want to recommend this and this together is the fact that in this series you have all the paranormal creatures. You have vampires, you have werewolves, you have everything. You have the fairies, the fae, you have everything in this series, and you also have that in House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Now in this series we follow our main character named Bryce Quinlan, and she is a party girl and just has a ton of fun in her life, just dancing, partying, drinking, consuming drugs. A lot of trigger warnings for that stuff in here, by the way. And until something happens one day in her life, which I won't say, and please don't read the synopsis of this book because it's so spoilery, but something happens in her life one day that kind of changes things around, and she is whisked into an investigation with fallen angel Hunt Athalar, and they have to team together to help out the rulers of the city discover who has been committing some crimes in the city. There's a reason she is whisked into this that kind of connects her to what's happening and why they need her help, but I won't say what it is because I feel like that is a spoiler even though it's in the synopsis. But the reason I think that why you should pick this up if you have read this and have loved it as a younger teen, or even now if you still love this but are looking for the adult equivalent of this, is because here we also have every single creature under the sun. It's also set in a more modern fantasy setting, so it's not castles and all that. It's in a city. There's cars, there's cell phones, there's computers, there's all that stuff, which you also have in here, of course, because this is set in our world, but with a fantastical world on the side as well. Here you also have that, but you have just the cities. The city is a normal city with phones and everything, with technology, but it is also magical and it has all these creatures, and it is just a ton of fun. This series is Sarah J. Maas's first official adult book, so you have those trigger warnings for drug consumption, alcohol, and you have the smutty scenes in here as well, especially in the second one, which I just finished. There's a lot more smut than in here. But I think that, yeah, if you liked seeing all those paranormal creatures, if you like fantasies that are set in a more urban style, but you don't really want to read this because you kind of outgrown this, or you have no interest in reading Cassandra Clare, then I think you should pick this one up. The second book just came out. I don't even know how long the series is going to be, but you don't have so much catching up as you have to do with this. So I think this is a lot of fun. There's a lot of lore, a lot of history, a lot of things that are coming from the past that they need to figure out. I just really love the series. I think that Sarah J. Maas really found her voice as an adult author in this series. She's been writing adult books basically since Akamath, but here it's official and she can go more out, and that's why these books are huge. This doesn't look like it, but this is 800 pages, and the world building gets really it gets bigger than in her other series. And I think that this, if you even liked Sarah J. Maas's other books, you should read this, and you probably have. But if you've never wanted to read Sarah J. Maas because you didn't want to read her YA stuff, I think this is a very good recommendation, especially if you liked City of Bones. So those are my if you like this YA read this adult recommendation part 2. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these and if you could compare them as well, or leave other recommendations for other people, maybe for some of the YA books that I mentioned or for other YA books, so that the recommendations can continue in the comments of this video. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave a dragon emoji in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye guys.